Hi everyone, good to see you on my channel today. Today I will tell you a wonderful story. It is full of love and kindness. I hope you enjoy it and I wish you an enjoyable viewing experience. Thank you. Archie and Cassie were about to go out when a fancy foreign car drove up to the mansion and the parents of the groom, John and Alice, came into the yard. Cassie shuddered inside. Oh shit, that was close. Now it's going to start again. Teasing, taunting, half hints. Oh, and my mother-in-law will get me. You wouldn't wish it on the enemy. Alice really hated her son's fiancé, and she did not even hide it. So she did everything in her power to make them part as quickly as possible, and showed her contempt. And now, looking the girl from head to toe, and muttering at her greeting dry. Hello, she added sarcastically. What? Are you leaving already? Not even a cup of tea? Cassie, baby, where did you get that cute polka dot dress? Was it on sale? It's out of fashion now, remember? It'll do for a dog shelter, though. Casey blushed from head to foot as she realized she was once again being mocked. Mom, stop your stupid jokes. I thought we had a deal. Casey is my fiancée, and I love her, and we're getting married soon. So I ask you to treat my girlfriend with respect. The woman smiled sweetly and added in a sweet, melodious voice, Oh, come on, son. I wouldn't dream of hurting Cassie. Not only that, but I want to arrange to meet her parents this weekend. I mean, the wedding's coming up and the matchmakers don't know each other. It's no good. I mean, we have to talk about it. We have to talk about the menu. We have to talk about the budget. So Cassie, tell your mom and dad we're expecting them Saturday at lunch. Bye. Bye. The couple finally went out the gate, and Cassie exhaled. What a mother you have, Archie. I hope we'll have our own place after the wedding. I can't stand it. What did I ever do to her? Why doesn't she love me so much? I'm afraid to even call my parents or I'll hurt them too. The guy hugged his bride, kissed her tenderly on the cheek, and began to calm her down. Don't worry so much, I beg you, and don't take her words to heart. Yes, Mom is a complicated person. I do not deny it, but you do not choose your parents. She is just a businesslike and bossy woman. She is just a businesslike and bossy woman, especially her subordinates. She's also got a bride for me, also from a family of bizarre traders. That nasty fat Manny. Well, I flatly refused. I fell in love with you. That's why she's mad. It's all right once we're married. She'll calm down and get over it. Of course, we'll live separately. I can't even deal with her myself. Well, goodbye, my dear. See you tomorrow. I'll miss you. The couple kissed passionately goodbye, and Cassie went back to her dorm. She called her mother, told her mom the news that the parents of the groom had invited them to visit, and laid down to rest. But sleep did not come. The memories of childhood and adolescence, and that nasty Alice, which was so spoiled her mood once again. She remembered the day Cassie had met Archie for the rest of her life. She was just trying to save another puppy, who had foolishly tried to run across the road on an expressway and was hit by a car. Poor kid was whimpering and fluttering, trying to get up on his paws, but they wouldn't listen to him, and he fell over and over and over again. And the cars kept coming, one after the other, without slowing down. Casey couldn't stand it. Her heart was about to burst out of pity for the puppy, and she bravely rushed almost under the wheels of the cars, maneuvering between them. She barely managed to grab the baby, snatching him almost out from under the wheels of the truck. She pressed his body to her chest, and now she did not know how to get out of the flying stream of cars. Suddenly, a strong man's hand grabbed her and led her away, waving to the drivers to stop. The truck driver cursed like a cabbie and wagged his finger at his temple. And he was right in his own way, because there was no crosswalk, and it was only by some miracle the girl had not been hit by a car. Panting on the sidewalk, she finally looked at her savior. It was a young, pleasant, and athletically built young man. Casey was frightened and began to babble. Thank you. I rushed after the puppy and almost got under the wheels myself. and you are just like a traffic controller, so skillfully led me. Excuse me, I have to run. I need to take the baby to the shelter. I work there. I help the vet and put animals in good hands. Oh, the poor baby's crying. How he whines. He must have a broken leg. Oh, by the way, my name is Casey. The boy kept up with her, running after her. I'm Archie. Nice to meet you. Can I come with you? I've never been to an animal shelter. It's interesting to see. Well done. You're brave. You weren't afraid to risk your life to save an animal. You don't see that very often these days, so you have a kind and compassionate heart. Casey just waved her hand. Oh, you know, I'm crazy about animals. I felt so sorry for them since childhood, especially those who were abandoned or on which sadists were mocked. There are a lot of them too, but they also have souls. They are hurt, frightened, loyal, and suffer a lot from human cruelty. They came to the shelter, kind heart. There, in the cages and aviaries, they kept kittens, cats, puppies, hamsters, parrots, and other animals. Surprisingly, everything was clean and well-groomed. The only thing was that everyone was sad. The puppy was named Harry and taken to the vet. While the doctor examined the little lame-haired patient, the baby got quiet and calmed down. Apparently, anesthetics had an effect. In the meantime, Casey decided to give her guest a tour. And that's Massia, the little black one with the white tie. So handsome, really, and so affectionate. But his fate is not an enviable one. His drunken owner regularly beat him and threw him out of the house, and the last time he even threw him out of the house, and the last time he even threw him out of the 4th floor. By some miracle, the cat survived. We nursed him back to health for a long time. At first he hissed at everyone and trusted no one. No kidding, he endured so much from people. But I managed to find an approach to him. I just sat near him for a long time and quietly talked to him as to a man. Promised him that he would never hurt again and would be loved. I brought him all sorts of tasty treats, and little by little he thawed out, stopped hissing and scratching. Come here, my good man. The cat, indeed, hearing Casey's voice, immediately climbed into her arms, began to rub and cuddle. And she happily announced, "We'll get him this week and I'll take him to me, where the commandant has already arranged. I'm stuck to him just like a soul. And this is Lime, though she is a yard dog. Not a purebred, but a very intelligent dog. Only already old, of course, no teeth, see badly. Her good owner led her to the plantation, firmly tied to a tree, and went away for good. Can you imagine? What a heartless man that must be. To eat and sleep in peace, knowing that he had doomed his pet to certain death. Lime sat like that for 15 days, skin and bones, until the forester accidentally found her and brought her to us. You should have seen her eyes. She was crying, I can honestly tell you. And so is every pet. They all have some kind of tragedy. So sorry for them. There's Harry. He's so little and cute, and no one wants him anymore. That's a shame. Archie suddenly suggested, why don't I take him? I have a huge mansion, plenty of room, enough food too. We already have 2 German shepherds, and I think we'll find a place for him. He won't go to waste. Casey threw her arms around the boy in a burst of emotion. Thank you, Archie. Thank you, Archie. But please, think it over. It's not a toy, is it? If you take it, you're responsible for its life. Don't let me worry. The boy smiled. You will have a chance to see that I am an excellent and responsible owner, because I like you very much, and I intend to invite you to a cafe and a movie tonight, and later to visit. Well, you must visit Harry somehow, mustn't you? Cassie was flushed. She liked the compliments, and liked Archie a lot, so she did not resist and gladly accepted his offer. Their first date was very special. They got so excited at the cafe that they missed the movie. But they wandered under the moon almost till morning and shared everything. and then they met the dawn on the bridge and admired the sunrise. Cassie really liked the guy. He was like a knight, so gallant and polite but easygoing at the same time. He called the girl Thumbelina, and she did look a little like her. Small in stature and with a chiseled figure and long blonde hair and big blue eyes. And so their romance began. The young people immediately fell in love with each other. It turned out that Archie was very wealthy. He came from a wealthy family. They own a chain of gas stations in the city and region. About his parents, however, not very good rumors. It was said that in the 90s somehow very quickly became rich, even though before that they did not have anything behind them. Everything was shrouded in mystery, but the townspeople were sure that it was not without dark dealings, and they treated their workers badly. There was terrible staff turnover. They promised one salary, and then they deducted it for various transgressions, and as a result, a person got miserable wages. And about the obnoxious character of the hostess, too, many had heard. She could easily scold or insult an employee, and always showed her superiority. However, the business Alice ran skillfully more than any man, knew how to haggle and almost toothpick orders and achieve discounts and low prices on purchases. Her husband John had no business sense at all, and was a henchman. He lived an idle life, liked to party hard, and rested on his wife's laurels, only blindly executing her orders. But at the same time, he was also a man who liked to show off his wealth. But Archie, surprisingly, was very humble and decent, not boastful or conceited, dressed like everyone else, and studied economics at the university. On our first date, Casey told me openly that she came from a simple farming family in the countryside. Her parents were toilers in the furrow from sunrise to sunset, and she grew up helping them with everything. Ever since she was a little girl, she loved animals and cured them. There was always a lot of animals in their farm: chickens, ducks, piglets, bulls, and even quail. So after school, they sent her to the academy to study veterinary medicine. She worked at the shelter more out of the goodness of her heart. She loved it. Every time she successfully rehomed a rescued baby tail, she felt satisfaction that she had saved and made the animal's life easier and better. The pair met almost every evening, went for walks in the city, went on picnics in the country, began to appear among Archie's friends together, and with Harry they often went for walks together in the park. The puppy turned out to be very clever, quickly memorized commands, and was happy to bring a dropped ball in his teeth. Young people were just dying with laughter when he buried his nose into the leaves and began to run wild there and roll from side to side. Word of their passionate romance quickly got to the groom's mother, and Casey was invited to a show, so to speak. She was terribly worried, tried on a lot of outfits, as after all in a house of the rich. She wondered what she was going to say, how she was going to behave. In the end, Casey settled on an aged, not gaudy, violet-colored dress. Long blonde curls she picked up and braided into an interesting hairstyle and put on a pair of boat shoes. She even borrowed a small clutch from her dorm mate. Archie saw her and marveled. He was showering her with compliments. Then he noticed that she was shaking like a leaf on the wind and began to calm her down. "Why are you silly, just like a firing squad? It's just dinner. No more than that. I will be there, do not worry. My parents are sure to like you. A doll like you and a smart girl like you can't help but like you, and a smart girl like you can't help but like you. Well, you guys have to get to know each other, right? Mind you, my intentions are very serious." The mansion amazed Casey with its luxury and wealth. There were expensive paintings, bronze statuettes, and all kinds of jewelry. It made her feel even more frightened. She felt as if she were in some museum at an exhibition. She was afraid to touch anything at all, lest she accidentally drop it or break it. Things were much simpler at her house, like everyone else's. She didn't like Archie's parents right away. Her father was a fat, grouchy man with small, piercing eyes and a greasy, unpleasant look. He stared at her blatantly, as if he were evaluating her, and her mother looked like a long, skinny snake. and she pressed her lips together contemptuously at the sight of Casey and whispered through her teeth, "Good evening. Come in. Archie, I hope your fiancé knows how to use cutlery. If anything, they're silver, and I'll be sure to count them after dinner. Table, please." The mood was lost at once, and Casey felt as if she'd been doused in slop, so disgusted that she wanted to run away from that inhospitable house. Archie tried his best to lighten the situation and make a joke, smiled and joked, and tried to smooth out the tension, which was growing by the minute. But Alice seemed to be picking on her son's fiancé on purpose, especially after she casually mentioned that she was from the village and worked as a volunteer at an animal shelter. Immediately caustic half-hints poured out, "Well, of course, who else could a girl from the village work? A dog shelter is the best place and most importantly so promising. There is an opportunity for career advancement. You must have got a good handle on cows and steers." The girl blushed from head to foot and tried to justify herself. "Why do you say that?" "Look, Harry, for instance, what a clever and wonderful doggie. I rescued him from under the wheels of a car. The shelter helped him heal. Isn't that great?" Archie's mother sneeringly summed it up. "Bravo. So that's how we got this mutt in our backyard. I hope this is all a gift from you. Or will you be giving us flea-ridden filth on a regular basis from now on?" Casey could not stand it, rattling her fork, and ran out from the table in tears, shouting goodbye. "I'm sorry. I have to go. I'll take Harry if you don't like him so much. The animal will suffer in a house where he's not welcome, just like a man. Goodbye." Archie ran off to her, shouting to his mother as he did so, "Mom, this is ridiculous. Thanks for the warm welcome. No matter how mad you are, I'm still going to be with Casey and we're getting married. Is that clear? You ought to be ashamed of yourself for acting like this. What did the dog ever do to you? What kind of person are you?" Despite the fact that the girl was humiliated and insulted, she was glad that her fiancé defended her and didn't go along with her mother's demands. It means he really loves her. But tears welled up from her eyes and dripped from her will. It was very hurtful and disgusting. What do these snobs allow themselves? They do not know me at all, and behave as if I'm their worst enemy, a second-class citizen. The poor dog. We must urgently take him out of here. He has been through enough." The groom panted, but caught up with his bride, held her to him like her most precious treasure, and began to calm her down. "Cassie, my dear, I am very ashamed of my mother. I'm sorry for her. I do not know what got into her. She can't seem to get over the fact that I fell in love with you and not that nasty Maddie she put me up to. Don't listen to anybody. You're the best and you're my favorite, and we're gonna get married anyway, and we're gonna be happy, whether anybody likes it or not. You and I have a life to live, not them. So let's stop crying and go to your place and get some tea, shall we?" Casey hugged Archie and whispered, "I love you, and I'm so afraid of losing you. I love you, and I'm afraid I may lose you. Your mother doesn't like me, in case you change your mind about marrying me." "Of course I will. I've got cookies too. Come on, we'll have to do something about Harry. I'm really worried about him now." Archie laughed. "Mom said it angrily, just to hurt you. Actually, she doesn't even go near our dogs. They're taken care of by our steward, Austin. He's kind and nice, don't you worry. There's nothing wrong with the dog. Well, we just took him for a walk yesterday, and you saw for yourself that he's happy and well fed." Casey and Archie were happy in the common kitchen, in the ordinary student dormitory, eating fried potatoes out of a frying pan and drinking tea and cookies, and there was no need for any delicacies or treats. The main thing was that two loving hearts were together. The couple continued to date anyway, despite their mother's prohibition, and decided to get humbly married. They rented an apartment and began to put things in order so they could live together. And then today, when they went to Archie's parents' house to get some of his personal belongings, they met the potential mother-in-law. In-law again. And once again, she managed to ruin her mood. Casey did not like the fact that she suddenly, out of the blue, invited her parents. She knew well that from this woman you could not expect good things, and at the same time in the mansion seething passions. Alice shouted, snapping her voice. What do we have that oaf grew up? What does he see in this redneck, eh? And most importantly, the leech has clung to our son's death grip. I've been urging her on and on, but she doesn't give a damn. Well, when her parents get here, Archie will get away from her. I'll show them the country guts. My husband hesitated and objected weakly. Maybe we shouldn't. The girl seems nice. Let them meet for a while, or else she'll really leave home. But the woman got mad at her husband. Shut up. What a connoisseur. Yes, he will. What's he going to live on? He's got to want to leave her, you know. And then I'll give him Maddie, and then I'll give him Maddie, and we'll be related to the Carponins. We could open a couple more gas stations downtown. What's the point? What's the use of that doggy girl? No, I'm gonna die, and this wedding is not gonna happen. On the appointed day, Casey, Archie, and her parents arrived at the mansion. Wayne and Galina Efimovna were dressed plainly, but decently. The mother of the bride wore an austere, pleasant coffee-colored dress, with her hair pulled back in a bun and elegant shoes on her feet. Her father was dressed in a sweater and slacks, while Alice resembled a Christmas tree. It was as if she wore all the decorations in the house at once. If you add to that a dress embroidered with rhinestones and a ridiculous tiara, it looked very ridiculous and even ridiculous. The woman smiled piteously. Hello, dear guests. We've been waiting for you. Come in, wash your hands, and come to the table. I don't understand what you've arrived by. Have cab drivers become so skilled that they drive second-hand Nivus? Galina Yefimovna held out a large basket. These are for you, delicious presents. Everything is fresh and rustic. Don't be shy. We grew everything ourselves. Alice looked at the sausages, bacon, goat cheese, vegetables, and contemptuously grimaced. Glasha, take it away, for God's sake. God forbid. We don't eat such things. This is solid cholesterol and fat. Well, thanks anyway. We'll probably put it somewhere else. Casey's mother was very upset that their presents were not to her liking, and the evening promised to be not very pleasant, but she did not show it. The feast, too, was uneventful and dry. Zinaida bit and stung all the time, like a wasp, showing her superiority and high status. She tried to make small talk. Oh, you know. Everything has gone up in price. Here I decided to buy myself shoes from Versus, so I do not even know whether it is worth it. Maybe Armani is better. What do you think? Galina Efimovna smiled. I can't recommend anything. I don't go shopping. I have no time. So excuse me, Zinaida immediately smilingly remarked. Well, of course. When in the village, you have to go to the boutiques then. You haven't seen such stores in your eyes. You're probably more at the cowsheds. It got to the point that she went to the window and opened it wide, with the words, "Oh, it's stuffy. I can't stand it. And there's a strong stench of manure coming from somewhere. Why is that? I can't breathe." Casey's father had been walking around all evening, looking at everything. Furniture, antiques, pictures, all the time, frowning and thinking about something. But he didn't say anything out loud. He was quieter. And Archie's father kept encouraging him. See how white people live. You don't have to work in the fields. Who learned how to do that? That's it. Alice, what a woman I've got. A businesswoman. She's so businesslike. The money comes in her own hands. In the end, Casey couldn't take the humiliation anymore. I've had enough of your hospitality, and I won't let you offend my family anymore. Let's go home. Thanks to your house. We'll go to another one. Goodbye. Alice splashed her hands, pretending not to understand anything. Oh, already leaving. Too bad. Well, goodbye. At least it will be something to remember. It is not every day you had to visit these palaces, right? Casey's father just calmly replied, "Oh, you shouldn't have done all this. You might regret it. You know, no matter how many strings you spin, there's always an end. I'm not saying goodbye. Galina, let's go. We have nothing more to do here." And so ended the dinner party of the future matchmakers, even without sitting down at the table. Everyone was left with a very unpleasant residue. Cassie said goodbye to her mother and cried, "I'm sorry, Mommy, that you and Daddy had to go through all this. Alice is an unbearable person. She's always picking on me too. But Archie, he's not like that at all. He's the best. He makes me feel so good. It's like he's not even part of their toxic family. I don't want to break up with him because his mother-in-law is mean." My father stroked Casey on the head affectionately, as when I was a child, and said softly in her ear, "Don't be sad, my dear. Archie's a good boy, isn't he? I knew it right away. We hit it off right from the start. You won't get lost with him. You'll be as safe as a stone wall. Believe me, I've seen a lot of people in my life. I've got a good eye, and his naughty mother I'll deal with soon. Everything will change, you'll see. The main thing is that you and your fiancé love each other, and the rest will take care of itself. Didn't you say you rented an apartment? That's fine. Live there for now. I'll think of something." A couple weeks went by. Casey went about her normal routine of curing and fostering animals and going to lectures, while Archie studied and worked. In the evenings, they watched movies together, or played merrily with their pet. There was such an idyll between them. Their own cozy little world, a couple cooing and not fighting at all. But the restless Alice could not calm down, and all tried to poison their lives with phone calls, demanding from her son to drop immediately this simple country girl and threatening him that he would disinherit it. One day, my mother suddenly called and said, "Daughter, let Archie warn your parents. We're coming to visit them again tomorrow evening, after 5. We have a very important thing to do. Say, we want to talk about you and Archie getting married. I mean, it didn't really come up the last time." Casey was horrified. "Mom, why do you have to go to them again? Those horrible people will humiliate you again. I couldn't bear it. We don't want this wedding. We'll just get married modestly, that's all. My mother-in-law's been on my nerves enough as it is, calling Archie every day and itching for him to leave me. She's threatening to disinherit him if he doesn't obey. And you say visit. Personally, I don't want to see Alice again. She makes me shake." But then my father answered the phone. "Daughter will be there tomorrow. Don't ask anything and do as I tell you. Wait." Casey turned to her fiancé in total shock and said, "No. Did you hear that? My parents are going to visit yours again tomorrow. I tried to talk them out of it, but they wouldn't let me. They say they will decide something about our wedding. I mean, what is this all about? I don't think your mom's going to act like a jerk again, and I can't take it." Archie just shrugged his shoulders. So let them come. What's the big deal? I'll warn mine. Maybe they'll reconcile, and my mother will stop harassing me. I personally really liked your parents, simple and nice people, and my mother wasn't so bad before. It's like she's got the devil inside her now. Casey spent the next day on pins and needles. She was already imagining how the nasty mother-in-law was going to sneer at and humiliate her parents and poke their noses into their rural origin. This time, Casey and Archie arrived at the mansion early. The boy tried to appeal to his mother's conscience. "Mom, Dad, please don't be like last time, showing your obnoxious temper. It's not nice or polite. Show some respect for my fiancé's parents. Oh, I think they're here. I'll go open the door and meet the guests." A car pulled up in the yard, but not a Niva, like the last time, but a fancy foreign car. 2 people got out. Even Casey opened her mouth and did not recognize her parents. What about the matchmakers? Mom looked like she'd just stepped off the runway. She wore a stunningly beautiful dress with an open back, On the neck was an outlandish and expensive pendant in the form of a crescent moon and earrings in tone with sapphires. And the father. My God, his own daughter would certainly not recognize him if she met him like that on the street. Expensive tweed suit with the needles, gold cufflinks, and Swiss watch on his hand. Surprised, Alice did not know what to say, but still found a moment to sneer. Oh my goodness! What people, and without guards! Did you sell all the cow and bulls of your neighbors to buy such outfits? Or took credits? Where did you get the money to buy such expensive outfits? And your penny? Pinching because you wanted to save money for your daughter's wedding last time, aren't you? Wayne just smiled broadly, looked strangely at the woman, walked into the house, and suddenly said abruptly, That's the way it is. You shut your mouth, take your hubby, and get out of this house. Both of you. It doesn't belong to you. I know all about your dark machinations in the past. Casey even squeezed her eyes shut and imagined what was about to happen. She thought her mother-in-law was going to yell and kick her parents out for saying that. But no, for some reason they both suddenly went pale and started babbling about how they didn't understand anything. They didn't know what they were talking about. But Wayne kept pushing. I know whose house this is and everything in it. The paintings, the antiques, all the jewelry. This house belongs to Stone, the millionaire who was killed in an accident with his wife years ago. He also had a little daughter, although they were already in their teens. They just couldn't become parents for a long time. A late baby. I knew Evan personally. We were close friends and companions. But it was the wild 90s. Everything was literally walking on a razor's edge, and I ended up in jail because of my own stupidity. Some shady guys wrapped me around their fingers like a boy. Already behind bars, I learned the sad news that my best friend Evan died, and all his wealth disappeared so mysteriously, as if they were not at all. I was the only one who knew exactly where he had kept his valuables. He did not trust banks and kept everything at home in a large safe. I often warned him that this habit would end badly. Alice and her husband were quiet and sat on the couch, as if they had water in their mouths. Casey and Archie listened without blinking. It was a very interesting story. Wayne continued, And now tell me, Alice, how could a cook and a gardener make so much money and become millionaires? You served the late Evan, didn't you? Didn't your hubby trim the bushes? Where'd you get the capital to open gas station? It's not even $1 million, but tens of millions of rubles. Why don't you say something? It all makes sense to me personally. You must have spied the code of the safe, and when you heard about the tragic death of the owners quickly, like rats, began to clean out the house. These statuettes are a rare rarity, and any expert will be able to confirm that. And these paintings are originals, and they were in one copy, which is also not difficult to prove. But you're stupid people and not versed in art, so your greed is what killed you. You stole everything. You didn't spare any of it. Greed clouded your judgment. Naturally, you went into hiding, hid, made fake documents, changed your name and surname. With all that stolen money, anything is possible. And you decided to start your own business with my friend's money. That's how they got rich. Of course, Alice, you can't deny your business acumen. You're doing more business than any man, and your husband is nothing but a henchman. But that wasn't enough for you. You've decided to take this house for yourself. After all, the old and infirm old lady, Evan's mother, Mary Ann, is still living in it. But you were so brainwashed, persuading her to sign false documents about the purchase of a small house near the sea, that she agreed and signed the papers on the sale of the mansion. In the end, you took the house from her and did not give her anything in return, actually throwing the poor old lady out on the street. She had to lose not only her own son at her old age, but also to move to a nursing home. Zinaida suddenly burst out, All this is your sick fantasy? You have no proof. Who will believe you? I don't know anything. We're not thieves. We are honest businessmen, Karyakins. But Wayne stopped her with a gesture. Shut up and listen to me. Well, the old lady in the nursing home kept a diary where she described everything you did from beginning to end. She blindly trusted the people who had worked in her home for years and could not imagine that you would deceive her like that. Not only that, she thought you were the most reliable people, but she became homeless because of you. That's why she signed the documents without looking. And before she died, she asked the nursing home staff not to throw away the diary, arguing that there was something very important. She said, "I don't have anything more precious than this diary. Don't throw it away. Please keep it. Maybe someone will pick it up much later. I really hope so." And the nurse took pity on her, put the records in the archive with the old lady's personal documents. So I have more than enough evidence on hand, believe me. But that's not all. Archie is not your son. You took him out of the orphanage because you were childless, and not out of any great love for children, but to make a name for yourself in high society, didn't you? Well, a respectable couple of businessmen, and suddenly no children. That's why Archie grew up to be such a great guy. He doesn't have your demon blood in him. He's a simple, good man. I knew as soon as I walked into the house the last time I was there. After all, those statues and candlesticks were in Evan's safe, along with the jewelry and money. Not to mention the watches your husband wears so casually. Where did you get it, John? It has an emerald inlay and is engraved on the back to Evan as a keepsake from Wayne. I gave it to a friend years ago. The millionaire kept it as a memento, never wore it, and kept it in his safe. All astonished when Archie's father took off the watch under pressure of the matchmaker, and it was indeed engraved. But sly, Jonah managed to erase the names, leaving only for a long memory. And Casey's father continued, "When I was free, I decided to give up the past. So I moved to the country and started farming, settling down and saving money for my only daughter's wedding." There was a ringing silence in the living room, and everyone looked at each other, unable to digest what they had just heard. Then Wayne went all in and said the most important thing of all. Evan's daughter survived the accident and didn't die. They put her in an orphanage right away because her grandmother was very old and couldn't take care of her because of her age, and they couldn't find any other relatives. So as soon as I was set free, I decided to look for the little girl and adopt her. It was a matter of honor because Evan was my best friend, and many times he asked me during his lifetime not to abandon her and look after her daughter. Not only that, but I couldn't have children myself. That's just the way it is. I served in the missile forces at one time. We had a radiation leak, so it's good that I survived. What about children? But they wouldn't let me adopt a child. I was a convict. Who would give me a baby? And then my sister got custody. My daughter has no idea. She doesn't remember me taking her out of the orphanage when she was 2 years old. She thinks of me as her own father. But I do love her more than life itself. She is my light at the window, and I never thought of her as adopted. So please love her. Anna is the heiress to the millionaire stone. And she rightfully owns this house and all the valuables you stole from her father years ago. So there's only one way for you to get out of here and fast, preferably right now. Otherwise, I'll take all the evidence to the police and conduct a genetic analysis. After all, the smart grandmother, in addition to the diary, left in the archive enclosed her talisman and charm, a bundle of hair of her son, Ivan, which was cut off at his christening. She had never parted with it. It was the only memory she had of him. And then you're finished. You'll go to jail for a long time for such a big fraud. Well, your time is up. Casey was shaken to her core. She couldn't believe her eyes. It was like a dream. The mean mother-in-law was scurrying around the house and frantically packing her suitcase, and her aunt husband was whipping cognac straight from the bottle. So it's all true. And she's the daughter of a millionaire. And Archie, the girl, in a burst of emotion, hugged her fiancé, who was sitting on the parfait with his arms around his head, which was just bursting with everything she had heard. The young men embraced. Archie cried and whispered to his bride, "That's why I've never felt real parental love. Only reproaches and reproaches. No matter what I did, no matter how I tried to please my father and mother, it was all taken for granted. We really were so different, as if we were strangers. But we were. How could we be? Cassie, how are you? They tricked you too, didn't they? You didn't know anything about your origins, did you? Are you mad at your parents?" Cassie shook her head in disapproval. "What do you mean? I love them. I'm thankful that they didn't leave me in the orphanage. I can't even call my dad stepdad. I always knew he loved me. And my mom always took pity on me, called me baby, bought me only the best things, tearing me away from myself sometimes. I'm going to go hug them." Casey immediately ran up to her father and gave him a big hug. "You know, you're not my stepfather anyway. You're my favorite daddy. And I'm your little girl. I love you and I love Mommy too. Anyway, thank you." Archie's adoptive parents, on the other hand, ran out of the house, flashing their heels and just to say goodbye to him. "That's even better. Now you can marry your own redneck. We will not interfere. But you're fired from your job, just so you know. And you won't get any money either. We don't have any." Archie kept silent. He did not respond with rudeness to rudeness. He was not that kind of person, but frankly, he was even relieved that these people, especially his mother, had nothing to do with him. Since lately he had not found common ground with them at all. Since Anna had become a rich heiress at once, she and Archie, of course, moved into the mansion. But they changed everything there in their own way. And they decided not to save money on the wedding too. They had a big party, invited all their college friends, Casey's parents, and even the neighbors. And we decided to have a honeymoon on the sea. It was always Casey's dream since she was a little girl. But before the trip, she had one more important thing to do. She and Archie, with the help of her stepfather, had searched for her parents' grave. There was a fancy monument there. It was covered with flowers and very well maintained. She cried, staring at the pictures of her family and trying to figure out what they had been like. Wayne had a long talk with his daughter and told her in detail what her father and mother had been like. "Remember, I used to leave home every year on the 9th of April and come home late, and sometimes a little drunk. And I used to explain that it was my best friend's birthday today. And you, when you were little, wondered what kind of a best friend is he, if he never comes to visit us. Well, it was your father's birthday, and I always spent it here with him, in the cemetery, talking about everything, telling him about you, about your progress in school, and believing he could hear me from heaven and support me. Your dad was a very good man. I still miss him a lot." Wayne showed old photographs. They looked at them together, and they both cried. Their relations had not grown colder. On the contrary, now there were no secrets. Wayne Igorovich felt at last easy and calm. He did not have to keep everything inside. He kept his promise to his friend. He had raised his daughter, returned her inheritance, and told her about his father. At last, Casey and Archie went on their long-awaited trip. The vacation was amazing. The sea, palm trees, sunshine, and fragrant melons and peaches. One day the couple, as always, was sunbathing and drinking cocktails, as suddenly the girl felt sharply ill. Her temperature went up, and she started vomiting a lot. Archie was terribly frightened and thought she had been poisoned by a mussel kebab or overrated in the sun. He picked up his little treasure in his arms and rushed with her to the hospital, despite her feeble protests. Then a long hour waited in the corridor, while the doctor took her in. Finally he came out to Archie, held out his hand, and smiling, said, "Congratulations, Daddy, you're having a boy, 16 weeks pregnant. Just be careful with the sun and the wine. She's getting the common toxicosis. So tan in the shade, plenty of vitamins, and overall everything is fine. Take care." A dumbfounded Casey came out, and Archie threw his arms around her and kissed her. "Hooray! We're having a boy. Don't think about it. I'll get a job when I get there. I'm the head of the family now, the breadwinner." and you'll take a sabbatical leave. Then you'll study by correspondence. Why didn't you say anything partisan? It's already a long time, isn't it? The girl babbled. With all these events, the news, the wedding, I stopped watching my health. I thought it was just a nervous breakdown of the cycle. It often happens with women. I didn't pay attention. I just got sick today. I was fine before. I can't believe it. I'm a mom. It's kind of early. Can I do it? Archie hugged her and whispered softly, "Not me, but us. We can do it. I think your parents will be happy about this news too and will not refuse to babysit their grandchild. So do not worry. Everything will be fine. And now let's go have a rest." "That's it, darling. We won't go to the sea in the heat. Only the shade and the sun lounger. How happy I am." When Wayne and Galina Efimovna learned this wonderful news upon the children's arrival, they just lit up with happiness, began to rush about, running to stores and quietly buying baby clothes, and in the evenings discussed where they would build a swing for their grandchild in the yard and where they would put a crib. The husband hugged his wife and dreamily said, "Well, Grandma, we have reached this happy moment when my grandchild will nurse him. What a happiness, really. You and I have raised such a great daughter. Evan would be proud of her." Alice's fate was unenviable. Her husband has always been a soft-tempered, and after what happened, drank completely and so burned to death, went to bed with an unextinguished cigarette. And she made a very unprofitable deal and lost the rest of her savings. Everything fell apart. She had to sell the business to pay off her creditors and move to the outskirts of town in a Khrushchevka apartment. Many people in the city knew Alice's bad temper, so no one would hire her. Everyone refused to hire such a troubled employee. I had to go to a cleaner in a cafe. Zinaida, in recent years, is so accustomed to the luxury that she could not accept his fate and swore at everyone around, drowning in hatred. Well, it serves her right. For all the deeds in life you have to pay, and she got exactly what she deserved. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Subscribe to the channel. Like it, write comments if you like the story, and see you on the channel.